bringing a new product into the world.
Yeah.
It's pretty complex, isn't it? Like trying to conduct an orchestra.
Yeah, exactly. So many moving parts.
Right. Different teams, different ways of working. Sometimes it feels like you need a secret decoder ring just to figure out how everyone operates.
Absolutely. And that's really where this idea of a product management framework, or PMF, comes in handy.
Okay, PMF.
Think of it like the conductor's score. It's the big picture structure guiding everything from the initial idea right through the product's entire life. It's end to end.
So it's not just building the thing.
No. It's about managing the product itself, the strategy, the development, launch, support, basically making sure you hit those business goals, and crucially, keep your customers happy.
Right, managing the whole performance. Making sure everyone's playing the same tune, hitting the right notes, the business objectives, customer satisfaction, guiding the whole symphony, even when things, go sideways.
Precisely. And the interesting thing is, product management isn't working in a vacuum. It naturally bumps up against other established ways of thinking.
Like what?
Well, you often hear about the project management body of knowledge, right? PMBK. That's focused on managing projects.
Okay.
Or the business analysis body of knowledge, ProdBOK, which is more about figuring out business needs. And then, of course, there's the Agile Manifesto guiding software development.
Ah, okay. And that's where it can get tricky, right? All these different playbooks.
Yeah.
How do you keep them all in sync?
That is the absolute key. For a product to really succeed, these different approaches have got to be aligned within that PMF. If they're not working together, well, it's chaos.
Like the brass section playing Mozart while the strings are doing jazz.
Exactly. You end up with a mess, and the product's chances of success plummet.
So our mission, then, for this deep dive, is to really dig into how this PMF connects everything. Strategy, what should we even build? Innovation, how do we keep it relevant? And value creation, how do we actually, make it happen? Trying to bring some clarity for anyone tangled up in this process.
That's the plan. Let's kick off with strategy. Michael Porter has some really useful ways to think about this.
Porter, okay. Famous for strategy.
Right. He talks about strategy not just as having a goal, but charting a specific course. And crucially, being different. Making deliberate choices about a unique set of activities to deliver unique value.
Okay, so it's more than just we want to win. It's defining what winning looks like for us and then making tough calls about what we will do and maybe more importantly, what we won't do to stand out.
Exactly.
And product managers, they're not just dreaming this up, right? They're down in the trenches making it happen, balancing that long-term vision with the day-to-day stuff.
Absolutely. That's the constant balancing act. And to help with those strategic calls, Porter's 5 forces model is, incredibly helpful. It's a tool to gauge how attractive a market is, understand the competitive pressures, really informs your strategy.
For 5 forces. Okay, let's break those down. What are we looking at?
Okay, first up, the threat of new entrants. How easy is it for someone new to jump into your market?
Barriers to entry, like needing tons of cash or dealing with regulations.
Exactly. High barriers, economies of scale, capital needs, distribution access, regulations make it tough for newcomers. Second force, the threat of substitutes.
Alternatives. Other ways customers can solve the same problem.
Precisely. If there are easy alternatives and your product isn't that different, customers can switch easily. That's a big threat.
Yeah, I can see that. If there are dozens of apps doing the same thing and switching is easy, you're vulnerable. What else?
Third force, bargaining power of buyers. Do a few big customers dominate your sales? Can they easily switch suppliers?
Ah, so if they can walk away easily, they have a lot of leverage.
You got it, especially if your product isn't critical for them. Fourth force, bargaining power of suppliers. Are there only a couple of companies making that key component you need? Is switching suppliers a huge pain?
So if your suppliers hold all the cards, they can squeeze you on price or availability.
Right. And the fifth force.
What's the last one?
Rivalry among existing competitors. Is the market crowded? Are products very similar?
Leads to price wars, big marketing battles.
Exactly. Fierce competition, fighting for market share. It can really eat into profits.
Okay, so those 5 forces give you a really good map of the competitive terrain. Once you understand that pressure, what do you do with it?
Well, Porter suggests 3 generic strategies to gain an edge. First, overall cost leadership, be the cheapest.
Okay.
Second, differentiation. Offer something unique customers will pay more for better features, brand, quality, service, you name it.
Stand out somehow.
Right. And third is focus. Concentrate on serving a specific niche market or a particular customer group really, really well.
And the key is you kind of have to pick one, right? You can't be all things to all people. That stuck in the middle idea.
Exactly. Porter was very clear on that. Without a clear strategic choice, cost differentiation, or focus, you just get lost. You don't build a sustainable advantage.
Makes sense. Okay, so that's strategy. Now let's shift gears to innovation, another critical piece in the PMF puzzle.
Right, innovation, the engine keeping things fresh. Broadly speaking, it's implementing something new or significantly improved. Could be a product, a process, a marketing method, even how the organization works.
So it's not just about the shiny new object.
No. The Oslo manual actually breaks it down into 4 main types.
4 types. Let's hear them.
First, product innovation. That's the new or improved goods or services themselves, better performance, new features, updated software, better usability, that kind of thing.
Okay, making the thing better.
Second, process innovation. New or better ways to produce or deliver the product. New techniques, better equipment, new software behind the scenes. Customers don't pay directly for this, but it's vital for cost, quality, speed.
Got it. Product is the what, process is the how. What are the other 2?
Third is marketing innovation. New ways to market changes in design, packaging, placement, promotion, pricing.
How you sell it.
And fourth, organizational innovation. New ways of structuring business practices, organizing the workplace, managing external relationships.
Interesting. So innovation touches everything. Now, you hear the term disruptive innovation a lot. Clayton Christensen's idea. How's that different?
Disruptive innovation. It's a specific type. It often starts by offering something simpler, cheaper, or more accessible, maybe not as good as existing products on traditional measures, but it appeals to overlooked customers.
Like digital cameras versus film initially.
Yeah.
Lower quality, but way more convenient.
Exactly like that. Over time, the disruption improves, gets better, and eventually displaces the established leaders. It changes the whole game.
So it sneaks in from the bottom or the side rather than a head-on attack?
Often, yes. But the key point for all innovation, whether it's radical disruption or small improvements, is that it involves change. Change in thinking, change in process. And for it to work, it needs to be woven into the product management framework.
Okay, how do you actually do that? How do product managers make innovation part of the day job?
By deliberately connecting the innovation process to the PMF, making it part of the workflow. A really powerful starting point for new ideas is using anthropological methods.
Anthropology, like observing people.
Exactly. Going beyond surveys. Watching customers in their own environment, understanding their unarticulated needs, the problems they don't even know how to express, that gives you incredibly rich insights for real innovation.
Understanding their world, not just their feature requests.
Precisely. And this whole innovation journey within the PMF can often look like a funnel, usually with about 5 phases.
An innovation funnel. Walk us through it.
Okay, phase 1 is staging. Get the team together, define roles, goals, the process you'll follow. Simple setup.
Chat it.
Second, aligning. This is critical. Team and management get on the same page about the focus, the scope. What are we actually trying to innovate on?
Avoids going off in random directions.
Absolutely. Third is exploring. This is the creative part. Generating ideas, discovering new areas based on those insights, finding where innovation could create real value.
The fun part? Then what?
Fourth is creating. Taking those promising areas and starting to flesh out actual business models or specific changes, developing initial concepts.
Making it more concrete.
And finally, mapping, the road mapping phase. Taking those concepts and figuring out the detailed timelines, how they fit into the product roadmap, planning the implementation.
Okay, that makes sense. Strategy, innovation. Now let's talk about the value creation process. What's that all about?
So the value creation process is basically how the product manager and the development team organize the work needed to go from understanding market requirements all the way through development and testing.
It's the how we build it part.
Yeah, essentially. It's choosing the overall approach for defining needs and turning them into working product. And the choice you make massively impacts workflow, how you manage risk, everything.
I bet. Picking the wrong process could really slow things down or lead to problems.
For sure. And interestingly, product managers haven't always been the ones choosing this process. Often it was engineering or QA.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the argument is product managers should be deeply involved. They know what success looks like for the product. They understand the constraints, scope, schedule, budget.
So it's about setting the context, the goals, not telling engineers how to code. More collaborative.
Exactly. Understanding the context, fostering collaboration. Because the best process for, say, manufacturing a car is totally different from building a mobile app, right?
Makes sense.
Generally, we see three main types of value creation processes: serial, iterative, and then iterative incremental, which often gets called agile in software, though not everything iterative incremental is strictly agile.
Okay, let's start with serial. Sounds like one after the other.
That's the idea, like a waterfall. You do all the requirements gathering first. Done. Then all the design. Done. Then development, then testing, then launch. Each phase waits for the previous one to finish completely.
Waterfall.
Ah.
I can picture that. Where did that come from?
Mostly from very structured fields like manufacturing or big construction projects where changing things late is super expensive. You also see it a lot in regulated industries, medical devices, pharma.
Weather.
Documentation and traceability are huge. The serial process gives you a very clear step-by-step record, which regulators love.
So clear plan, lots of documentation, but you mentioned it can take longer.
Yeah, because it assumes you can know everything up front, which in product development is, well, rare. You often have unknowns, changing needs, so you build in buffers, spend ages on final testing trying to catch everything you missed earlier.
But the upside is that clear process helps with quality control and audits.
Definitely. The formal steps in documentation make external audits much smoother. It shows you followed a defined process rigorously. Can actually save time later with approval sometimes.
Okay. Now, within serial, you mentioned phase gate reviews. What are those? Checkpoints.
Exactly. Formal checkpoints at the end of each major phase. A cross-functional team gets together, looks at the work done, and makes a hard gonna-go decision for the next phase.
Based on what?
Strategic fit, technical feasibility, market potential, risk, competition. Basically, does this still make sense to invest in?
So it's a decision point. Keep going, stop, or maybe fix something first.
Right. The four typical outcomes are go proceed, no proceed it, go kill the project, rework, go back and fix specific things, or hold pause, wait for more info.
Now, these are different from just technical review.
Oh, yeah. Technical review should happen before the gate review. The gate review is a business decision meeting. They ask tough questions. Is it aligned with strategy? Is the market big enough? Can we actually build it? What's the ROI? What makes it unique? Do we have the team? Is the testing solid? How are we handling risks?
Sounds pretty intense. Definitely not just a status update.
Not at all. These are serious business decisions about where the company puts its money. Usually materials go out like a week ahead so everyone can prepare.
Who's typically on this gate committee?
It's cross-functional. You'll have product management, quality, manufacturing, sales, marketing, legal, engineering, operations, implementation, project management, all the key players.
Okay, clear picture of serial and phase gates. Let's switch to iterative processes. How are they different from that straight line?
Iterative is all about cycles, repetition. Instead of building the whole thing at once, you work in smaller chunks or increments. Each cycle iteration involves planning, designing, building, testing that chunk, and you learn from each cycle.
So mini projects within the larger project, looping back.
Kind of, yeah. The big win for product managers is getting feedback way earlier and more often. You show users working pieces sooner, see what they think, and adjust.
Instead of the big bang reveal at the end where you find out you missed the mark.
Exactly. Reduces that risk massively. You can course correct as you go.
How do you keep track of what needs doing across all these iterations?
Often with a project control list, it's basically the master list of features, fixes, tasks. You pull work from that list into each iteration, and you refine the list based on feedback.
Okay. You mentioned the Rational Unified Process, RUP. How does that fit in?
RUP is a well-known iterative framework for software. It's not super rigid, it's adaptable, it has building blocks, roles, who does what, work products, what gets created, tasks, how it gets done.
And it has its own structure.
Yeah. Within each iteration, RUP organizes work into 9 disciplines. Things like business modeling, requirements, design, implementation, testing, deployment, plus supporting stuff like project management and configuration management.
9 disciplines per iteration. Sounds complex.
It can be, but it's also structured into 4 higher-level phases: inception, elaboration, construction, and transition. Think of them like major stages, each potentially having multiple iterations inside it. Each ends with a key milestone.
Okay, quickly, what's the goal of each RUP phase? Inception.
Inception is about making the business case. Define the scope, success factors, initial forecast, basic use cases, project plan, risks. At the end, stakeholders check. Does this make sense? Do we understand the requirements? Is the plan credible? Do we have a basic prototype?
If not, maybe rethink or cancel. Makes sense. Elaboration.
Elaboration digs deeper. Analyze the problem, define the core architecture, get about 80% of the use cases down, build an executable architecture to prove it works. This phase firms things up. Changes get much harder and more expensive after this.
So nail down the foundation. Construction.
That's the main build phase. Coding, building out features. For big projects, this could be many, many iterations, just churning out the functionality.
Transition.
Getting it out the door to users. Training, beta testing, making sure it meets expectations. The final handover.
Okay, got our UP. Now the third category, iterative and incremental processes. The one's often called agile. What's the core idea there?
The core is still repeated cycles, iterative, and delivering in small working pieces, incremental. Leverage learning, adapt to change. You deliver a small subset of requirements first, then enhance it iteration by iteration based on feedback.
Faster value delivery, more adaptability. You stressed the difference between iteration and increment again. Can you clarify?
Yeah, it's a useful distinction. An iteration is the time-boxed cycle, say 2 weeks, where you do the work. The increment is the actual piece of working software you produce at the end of that iteration. Iteration is the process rhythm. Increment is the growing product.
And agile is the umbrella philosophy for this.
Yes, exactly. Agile isn't one specific method, but a family of them sharing principles from the Agile Manifesto. Things like valuing customer satisfaction, welcoming change, delivering working software frequently, collaboration, self-organizing teams, reflecting and improving.
But you said agile gets thrown around loosely. What are some specific agile methods?
Right, it's the philosophy, but the frameworks, things like Scrum, Extreme Programming, XP, Kanban, Lean software development, those are concrete ways of doing agile.
Okay, so agile basically assumes change is constant, making detailed upfront plans kind of futile, leading to that probe and learn idea.
Precisely. Instead of trying to predict everything, you take small steps, deliver, get feedback, learn, adjust. It's a continuous feedback loop. Gives product managers much better visibility, flexibility, and often higher quality, especially with things like automated testing.
What are the big wins for product managers using Agile?
Often more frequent releases of value, smaller chunks but delivered sooner. That can be a huge competitive edge, faster ROI, but it demands much deeper ongoing collaboration. Product manager, dev team, stakeholders, everyone needs to be engaged. And discipline is key.
You contrasted Agile's empirical process with the defined process of waterfall. Can you unpack that difference again? It seems important.
Yeah, think manufacturing again. Defined process. Known inputs, fixed steps, predictable output. Waterfall tried to copy that for software. Agile says building software, especially innovative stuff, is more like R&D. It's uncertain. You learn by doing. That's the empirical process. Knowledge comes from experience. You inspect, adapt, learn from each cycle. It's fundamentally different.
Defined is like following a recipe. Empirical is like exploring a new territory.
Great analogy. That's exactly it.
So in this empirical world, how do you handle requirements? Not massive documents, presumably.
Right. Often they use user stories, that format. As a user type, I want action, so that benefit. But the key is, the story isn't the spec. It's a placeholder for a conversation. The details get hashed out between the team and the business folks.
A reminder to talk. And how do they estimate and plan the work for these short cycles?
Typically, there's a prioritized product backlog, the big list of everything, ordered by value, risk, dependencies. The team estimates the effort, often using relative units like story points. Then they figure out their velocity, how many points they usually complete per iteration. That helps them forecast what they can realistically commit to next time.
Velocity helps predict capacity. How do they track progress visually?
Lots of visual tools. Burn-down charts are common, showing work remaining versus time left for the release or the current sprint. Gives everyone a quick visual. Are we on track? Do we need to adjust scope or reprioritize?
Okay. You also mentioned developing in functional slices. What's that mean?
It means building end-to-end functionality in each iteration, even if it's basic. Instead of doing all the database work, then all the middle-tier logic, then the UI, you build a thin slice that cuts across all layers. Like a simple login feature that actually works from screen to database and back, even if it's not fully polished yet. Deliver demonstrable value each time.
Not just building components in isolation. And visual management helps keep this all transparent.
Hugely. Teams use information radiators, burn-down charts, backlogs on the wall, physical or digital, task boards like Scrum or Kanban boards, columns like to do, in progress, done. Makes progress, bottlenecks, everything visible at a glance. Helps the team manage itself and gives a product manager quick insight.
Okay, let's dive into some specific methods. Scrum seems really popular.
It is, yeah. Scrum's a framework, doesn't dictate how to code, but often pairs well with XP practices like automated testing. You've got three key roles: Scrum Master, Process Coach, Impediment Remover. Product Owner owns the product vision, manages the backlog, and the development team, the ones building the increment. Teams are small, cross-functional.
And they work in those cycles, sprints.
Right, sprints. Time-boxed, usually 4 weeks, max 30 days. Within each sprint, you have key events. Sprint planning, what to build this sprint, the daily scrum, quick 15 minutes synced up, the sprint review, show stakeholders what was built, get feedback, and the sprint retrospective team reflects on how to improve the process.
Got it. What about extreme programming, XP? How's it different?
XP is great for small-medium teams, especially when requirements are fuzzy or change a lot. It takes common sense practices and dials them up to 11 extreme.
Like what?
Pair programming, 2 devs, 1 keyboard for constant code review, comprehensive automated unit testing run constantly, integrating code multiple times a day, relentless refactoring to keep the code clean.
So much more focused on the engineering practices than Scrum.
Exactly. Shares the agile values, but less focus on formal roles like Scrum Master, more on these core technical practices. Also, XP teams often don't break stories into tasks and planning. They might track progress with the story point burn down.
Okay. And lean development, where does that come in?
Lean comes from manufacturing, specifically the Toyota production system. The mantra is create more value for customers with fewer resources.
Sounds efficient. How does it apply to software?
It shares agile principles, customer focus, collaboration, continuous improvement, but Lean's unique focus is on the flow of value, minimizing waste, bottlenecks, queues.
So less about fixed iterations, more about smooth, continuous flow.
Pretty much. Lean doesn't rely on time-boxed iterations for cadence. It focuses on reducing batch sizes, limiting work in progress, WIP, to get things through the system faster. Shorten that cycle time, ideally towards single-piece flow.
How does limiting work in progress help? Seemed counterintuitive.
Lean thinking shows that trying to keep everyone busy at 100% actually creates queues and delays, slows down feedback. Limiting WIP forces you to finish things before starting new ones, which smooths the flow and exposes bottlenecks faster. It's about optimizing the whole system, not just keeping individuals busy.
How do lean teams visualize this flow?
Often with a Kanban board. Looks a bit like a Scrum board, but its main job is visualizing the flow stages and enforcing those WIP limits per stage. Instead of burn-down charts, they might use cumulative flow diagrams to track WIP, cycle time, and throughput over time.
Wow, okay. So serial, iterative incremental with Agile, Scrum, XP, Lean. Lots of options for that value creation process. What's the bottom line for product managers choosing?
The bottom line is, there's no single silver bullet. The best process depends entirely on your context, your company culture, the type of product, the team's skills and experience.
So collaboration is key.
Absolutely. Product managers need to work with their teams to figure out what fits best. And remember, there's a learning curve. Switching processes takes time and effort, especially for mature products. You have to weigh the benefits against that transition cost.
Right. So we've covered a lot of ground connecting strategy, innovation, and these different ways of creating value, all within that product management framework.
Yeah, and the big takeaway is how interconnected they are. Strategy drives innovation, and both shape the value creation process you need. They aren't separate things.
Exactly. Understanding that and consciously aligning them seems absolutely crucial for success. Avoiding those common traps.
Couldn't agree more. And maybe a final thought for you listening. Think about your own work, your own products. Which of these ideas, a strategic model, an innovation technique, a value creation process, resonates most with the challenges you're facing right now? How could you maybe tailor or adapt these frameworks to your specific world to get better results? It's always about finding the right approach for your unique situation.